Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 2 for this news report today. Alright, we left off with here, former German, politician exposes West alliance with al-Qaeda. So the Syrian rebels receive money and weapons predominantly from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Saudi Arabia is mainly supplying al-Qaeda with the USA knowing about it, and the West is providing political cover for the entire rebellion, including al-Qaeda, which is a de facto ally of al-Qaeda. But it goes on and says Assad is a dictator, so is the king of Saudi Arabia and the emir of Qatar. The U.S. and the despots of Saudi Arabia and Qatar don't want to see democracy in Syria. Their objective is to knock out an important ally of Iran, which has become too powerful because of the Iraq War. So it goes on there and talks about, secularism and how it's diverse, the country. And it says here that nor does the fact that if the extremists win, 2 million Christians will lose their homes. So this Todenhofer writes that Assad will be able to hold out for some time, therefore it would be better to negotiate with him than to continue this tragic civil war. He said what would be required is for the U.S. to force Saudi Arabia and Qatar to stop supplying the weapons, with Russia doing the same on the other side. A ceasefire should be used for talks between Assad and the opposition with the aim of forming a transitional government, of working out a democratic constitution that protects minorities, and of preparing free elections under international monitoring. And finishing up says that Assad is not that much interested in being a presidential candidate in 2014 if there is a fair peace agreement. He also writes that it's time for a correction of the West's course. It must end its cynical pact with al-Qaeda. Then new report says Brennan's black ops in Libya caused Benghazigate and Stephen's deaths. This is what I've already been saying for some time now. Benghazigate continues to unravel, and the man who is front and center at this week's Washington, D.C. hearings is now being blamed for the Villa siege last September. According to a new investigative book published by 2 former U.S. Special Operations soldiers, it says here, and serialized exclusively in yesterday's Daily Mail, the former CIA Director David Petraeus was blackmailed by 2 CIA officers into resigning, and was made to publicly admit to his affair with intelligence operative Paula Broadwell. Of course, this angle of the story will surely drive book sales, but it is not the most significant revelation of the story. So it goes on and says that the president's own deputy NSA advisor at the time, Brennan, had been authorizing covert unilateral operations outside of the traditional command structure using the Pentagon's Joint Special Operations Command across Libya and North Africa. It says Brennan's black ops that are said to have prompted retaliation inside Libya that led to the September 11th Benghazi compound siege that killed 4 Americans. So you can go in there and check it out. Links should be posted. It just goes over what I was talking about. I mean, basically they were arming these rebels, the same rebels that killed the people there at the base. So Southeast Asian countries, and of course that branches out to Mali, branches out to Syria, and arming these factions of Islamic extremists. Southeast Asian countries stack up on arms as they face off with China. These countries are stocking up on the latest military gadgets, expanding international arms webs as they seek to counter China's rise. So they're talking about these Russian-built submarines going to Vietnam and the Philippines. Talking about signaling a deal to buy a squadron of jet fighters from South Korea and helicopters from Italy. It says there's a 200% increase in Indonesian defense spending. Then next up we have credible Chinese mainstream source reports troop mobilization prepping for Japan war. Again, how credible is this? I don't know. I'm not going to put my name on it, but I'll just put it out there. You can make up your own mind about it. Troops active for several days, and it says hostilities between China and Japan may be about to take a major turn for the worse. So this is right around the time of this whole North Korea nuclear test. So it goes on here and it says, plus before the news that the Chinese warship's radar has been repeatedly aimed at the Japanese ships and planes, for the media has speculated that China may prepare for war. There was a lot of exercises, but it's talking about large troop movements. Also, on February 3rd, a large number of tanks wheeled military base from these is delivered to the coastal areas. Many local residents with the tense situation are of some concern. Then, of course, you actually have the Chinese government telling their people to be ready for war, to be mobilized. The article says that they know the source of the story, this Falun Gong affiliated NTD-TV, which I know does have some propaganda, has historically been a credible source of information that the Chinese Communist Party desperately tries to censor. It says here that If this is the case, this buildup of these vehicles and mobilization bordering the East China Sea and closest to these Diaoyu Islands is accurate, then hostilities between China and Japan may be about to take a major turn for the worse, like we said. University of Maryland shooting leaves 2 students dead and 1 injured. So this is a daily news report for, shootings, because there's like these types of shootings every day, I guess. At least 2 students have been killed and 1 injured in a shooting at the off-campus residence of University of Maryland in the latest shooting. So it was a murder-suicide at an off-campus residence. It says here that when the student confronted his roommate for setting a fire in the basement of their shared house, he opened fire, killing 1 and injuring the other, and killed himself. Fugitive ex-cop Dorner reportedly dead after standoff with police. So it says shooting suspect, the subject of a week-long manhunt, has not emerged from the cabin destroyed by the fire late afternoon. So they're saying that he barricaded himself in the mountain home following the deadly shootout with officers early Tuesday. So it's interesting because they said that he murdered 3 people, but what about the people that were killed or shot or maimed in the line of fire by the cops? Would that be attempted murder or what? For whatever it's worth, there's people that are just really skeptical about the story. I am a little skeptical myself. If this is like someone said the Running Man or something. I mean, is this some kind of big show or something for the media? Because then they can start doing this with their description. He tied up 2 women. I mean, that would be the ironic thing, because he's talking about getting his name back, right? It's all like something out of a movie. And I mean, what would be worse than for somebody to go out acting like they're you and then start tying up women and like shooting people, and it's not even you? I mean, that's just creepy. But the LA residents to police: don't shoot, we're not Dorner. So these are the t-shirts that have been going around. It says after 3 Californians were nearly killed this week by police officers opening fire at people mistaken for suspected murder, it says the solution may finally stop the shootings. I guess there's a little bumper sticker as well. So next up, dead bodies are rising from their graves. Hackers break into TV station's emergency alert system to warn viewers of a zombie apocalypse live on air. The viewers in Montana saw a TV show interrupted by warnings that zombies were attacking the living. Dramatic fake announcement told people to not approach the dead bodies as they were considered extremely dangerous. The local station quickly released a statement that there was no emergency. It says no one is sure who hacked the system, how they did it, and why, but gawkers suggest that it could have been a viral marketing campaign for AMC's zombie drama, The Walking Dead. I've thought about it before. I think people are, I mean, like, we use that word a lot about zombies, but I think people are technically can be considered zombies. I think there are real-life zombies out there. They're literally The Walking Dead. I mean, they have no soul. Man billed for ambulance that arrived after his father passed away. So it says when a 71-year-old Duran Ford Sr. man was struggling to breathe on New Year's Day, his family called 911, but the man died waiting for an ambulance that took 40 minutes to arrive. And that man's family has now received a $780 ambulance bill. So it goes on here and it says that the family member says, I feel angry, upset, I'm disturbed that we even received this bill. We're still grieving about the situation. He added, we're very angry about what happened and the service we did not receive from the district. New York raises taxes on sandy hit houses. I remember covering this about a month or 2 ago. It said New York homeowners from regions most severely impaired by Hurricane Sandy have suffered damage to their homes and expensive repairs, but the city is now inflicting a heavy tax hike upon those residents, claiming their property values have risen. Councilman Michael Nelson told the New York Post that common sense dictates their property values have fallen, if not plummeted in some cases. But the city claims property values for the homes in Manhattan Beach, Coney Island, Staten Island, and the Rockaways have shot up, even though many of those properties were damaged in the storm and still requires repairs. So that's interesting because it kind of sounds like Louisiana. Like if this was kind of like an engineered storm, that they would want to just, clear out all these houses and then there's investors that know what's going to be built there. There could be huge casinos, hotels, whatever, resorts, and that's why the value is up. The only people that don't know are the people whose houses were demolished. Russian cop faces 5 years in jail after leaving disabled man to die on the street in negative 40 degrees Celsius. After losing his fingers as a result of 12 hours spent in sub-zero temperatures, a disabled man has died from a blood clot in a Russian hospital. policeman who refused to fulfill his duty by helping the man is now facing 5 years behind bars. So, goes on here and it says that the incident actually happened last year when the 28-year-old speech impaired was boarding a bus with his mother when the doors shut before she could get on. Unable to communicate, they spent some time circling the bus route before being let off at a suburban stop in the city. Lost and confused, he was spotted by a woman who called the police to help the stranded individual. The officer who responded to the call failed to carry out his duties, simply deciding not to investigate the report any further. We just covered a story yesterday about the elderly being more elderly are being popping up in these homeless shelters, and that literally they're being dumped off at the front door, and like kind of like just sitting out there freezing, with Alzheimer's and just standing there getting lost. So I mean, like I said, this is the way it is now. I'm going to leave it off here. That's all I have for you today. So this is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.